And good evening, everyone. It's uh, great to be able to sit with you, whether you're online or in the Zendo. So, I've been thinking a bit lately about anxiety. I think you don't have to be a genius to know that these are very anxious times we live in. And in fact, the 21st century has been characterized by sort of one damn thing after another. And we wonder where the next blow is going to come from. And we don't know, or if there will be a next blow. Uh, and it seems to me that anxiety, which I think we all confront in our lives, especially in these times, uh, comes about because we want to know what we should do to protect ourselves. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to figure out what we're going to do if this happens, if that happens, if the other thing happens, and will it happen, and how likely is it to happen, and all of that. And so basically, what's going on is our thinking mind is trying to come up with an answer, although it doesn't have enough information to come up with any answer. And this causes a lot of anxiety. I was talking to someone the other day who is dealing with his aged in-laws. The mother-in-law has dementia. The father is 90 and is still working a full-time schedule. And he's full of anxiety about it. What if the father-in-law falls down and can't earn anymore? What if the mother-in-law needs care that the father-in-law can't provide? It's just one of these situations where you don't know what's going to happen. You want to be prepared. You want to do your best. And, there are some reasonable things you can do. You can investigate assisted living facilities and so on. But you don't know. And trying to figure out what you're going to be dealing with and in what way and in what form it's going to come, and to game out something on the basis of not having enough information to know really anything causes a lot of anxiety. I confront anxiety all the time at my time of life, and maybe other people my age do too. I don't know whether I'm going to be alive, for 20 more weeks or 20 more years. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to get up the 3 flights of stairs to my apartment. I can do it just fine now. What about next week? Well, probably, but gee, at this stage, any wild thing can happen to you. You just don't know. And so this is the place where reasoning it out won't help you. And to my mind, this is this place where spiritual practice comes in. So the figuring mind, very useful tool, is not useful for these kinds of questions. Something deeper is required for us to find our stability in the midst of constant change, in the midst of impermanence. For want of a better term, we call this deeper something wisdom. Wisdom is kind of a placeholder. Because we have this word, we think we know what it is, but we don't really know exactly what it is. But, I notice I was in the park today and I noticed that the daffodils know it's time to bloom. They didn't figure that out. And I'm pretty sure in June, the roses will know how to bloom too. The leaves know how to start putting up buds and getting on with the business of showing their leaves, just as they knew back in late October that it was time to let their leaves go. How did they know this? How does my cat know that it's time to start losing a little bit of fur and leaving it on the floor for me to sweep up? We don't know exactly what it is that keeps things going like this. The way everything interpenetrates and interacts, the way the environment and the individual living in the environment are not two different things. They function together. And somehow all this interdependent functioning throughout space and time makes a very deep kind of sense. Whether in our personal opinion we like what's going on or not, I don't like it when it's time for winter to come on. And yet it makes sense to me in a deeper level than my likes or dislikes. So when we're beset with so much uncertainty and impermanence, how do we access our wisdom? Access whatever it is that just kind of knows. Well, there's a koan that I think points to this. It's quite a famous koan about Master Joshu and an old woman. And this old woman kept a little tea shop at a crossroads. And apparently monks had to pass her tea hut as they were making a pilgrimage to Mount Taishan. Taishan in legend is the home of Manjusri, the bodhisattva of wisdom. So you could say they're on a pilgrimage to the seat of wisdom. And so inevitably it happened that when a monk came along, he would stop at the tea shop and ask the old woman, "How do I get to Mount Tai?" The old woman would say, "Go straight on." The monk would get up and start heading off down the road, and she'd say, "He looks like a fine monk, but he goes on this way too." Heading off into the distance to find wisdom. Anyway, one of Joshu's students reported this to him, and he said, "Oh, well, okay, I'm going to go and check out this old woman for you." So he went to the crossroads. He asked the old woman, "How do I get to Mount Tai?" She said, "Go straight on." And Joshu got up to go and head down the road. And she said, "He looks like a fine monk, but he goes on this way too." Joshu headed back to his monastery and told the assembly, "There, I've completely checked out this old woman for you. So how did he check out the old woman? Some of the commentary on this koan says not only did Joshu completely check out the old woman, but the old woman completely checked out Joshu. I would say not only did she completely check out Joshu, but she completely checked out Ryo. And as Ryo is giving this talk, he's completely checking out that old woman. Go straight on. How do I get to the seat of wisdom? How do I get to Mount Tai? Go straight on. Am I going to be able to get up those 3 flights of stairs next week? Well, I got up them today. And when tomorrow comes, I'll try to get up them again. So I find that straight on, wonderful antidote to anxiety. Instead of trying to game out everything that might happen, uh, you know, am I going to have a stroke? Am I going to have a heart attack? Or in the case of my friend, is my father-in-law going to fall down and be unable to take care of my mother-in-law? And what do we do about it? Well, we don't know. We have to rest in not knowing and then take a step. Sometimes there are things we do know, and that's great. We usually don't feel anxiety about those things. I know I'm going to see my accountant, and he's going to tell me how much I owe the government, and I'm going to pay it. I'm not happy about that, but I don't have any anxiety about that. Go straight on. How do we respond to what's going on right now and what's on our plate right now? Are peas on our plate? Well, then I'll take up my fork. I won't take up my knife. Go straight on. So there's a story about Mount Taishan and Manjusri, and I think it contributes to our understanding of what it is to go straight on and find ourselves in the seat of wisdom. So there was this old monk named Wucho who went to Mount Tai because he wanted to encounter Manjusri. And he was huffing and puffing. The road was really, really tough. Maybe he bit off a little more than he could chew physically. So Manjusri manifested a beautiful temple where Wucho could rest for the night, and they had a nice Dharma conversation, and Manjusri served him tea and everything. It was very nice. And Wucho had a good rest in Manjusri's temple. And then Manjusri sent his attendant to guide Wucho out of the way, on his way. And the attendant led him to the path, and Wucho said, did I really encounter Manjusri? And the attendant pointed, said, look, master. And Wucho looked, and there was no temple there. All he could see was rugged mountain peaks That's where he was. He was trudging through the mountains. And the verse comment on the particular koan that this story is told about, one line in it is, "The twisted mountain peaks, purple as indigo." In another koan, it refers to distant mountains without end, layer upon layer of blue. So we have two things going on in this image. We have rugged mountains, separate peaks, each differentiated from each other. And yet at the same time, they're all the same color. The Korean master Sung San said, well, yeah, it's like Dharma's like animal crackers. They're all made in the same factory and they all look different from each other. But when you taste them, they all have the same taste. Whatever mountain you're trudging up, it has the taste of Dharma. If it's a rugged, difficult mountain, it has the taste of Dharma, no less than if it's an easy, smooth mountain. We can encounter the truth anywhere. We can encounter the seat of wisdom anywhere. There's nothing. We don't have to ask an old woman and trudge down a long, dusty road to get to the seat of wisdom. It's always right here in this very step, and then in the next very step, and in the next, and in the next. Whether those steps are taking us through heaven or hell, they all come from the same factory. They all have the same taste, the taste of Dharma. This is where we find our stability. This is where we find the capacity to let go of our frantically grasping, thinking mind, the mind that's constantly in a whirl of craving for security and peace and comfort and aversion to all the bad things that are going on now, war, pestilence, all of those things. All of those things that we don't quite know how to handle, both that are going on in our world and in our personal lives. We encounter the ability just to be on the particular mountain we're on and to take the next step. And we do it with the faith that somehow we'll know the direction to take, just as the daffodils know that it's time to bloom right now, just as the roses will know it's time a couple of months from now in June. It doesn't require us to set aside our thinking mind. But when we find that it's a tool that is not serving the purpose for the situation it is, we can relinquish it. Just as we do in zazen. We don't try to suppress the thinking mind, but we just notice it. We notice it grasping and grasping and grasping. And each time we notice it grasping, when all we're doing is sitting there on a cushion or a chair, well, then we just relinquish it in that moment. And in this way, whether through zazen or climbing a mountain or making tea, eating peas, whatever it might be, we connect to our deeper wisdom, the wisdom that we share with all beings, the wisdom of our great open heart, which extends everywhere and which is always available to us. It's never withheld, even for a moment. But we really need to relinquish and pay attention. Pay attention to what? Simply to what's here right now.